The local broadcasters, the Portuguese host broadcaster, have done it for us. They've picked out Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Tim van der Velde, who was one of the top favourites for the European Junior Cross Country title, the fastest man this year on the track over the steeplechase. Emil Schreyri, European 3,000 metre steeplechase champion, and then we've also got Mac Eleni, the Irishman, in there as well. Tim van der Velde, on his day, a very quick runner indeed in the steeplechase. Europe's fastest under-20 steeplechaser. Ran really audacious heat in Boras and then just fell apart in the final. Never really quite sure what happened there. There's Dada Makaleni, Irish Junior Cross Country Champion, third in the European Junior 5,000 metres. And a good Irish team here. They now and then get into the podium positions, and there's an outside chance of the Irish perhaps getting on the podium here in the junior men's team race. Well, he's a bit obscured. We're looking at Paul Sprecht, Florian Brem, but his teammate Elias Schremmel, the 3,000 metre steeplechase champion, is the man to look out for in a German best, perhaps. There's Jakob Ingebrigtsen. I'm sure we'll have plenty to say about him as the race unfolds. Hakon Stavic behind him. And the 1,500 metre champion with a very fast finish indeed, Nuno Pereira. The host nation's big hope for a medal here in this particular event.
And Edson Barras next to him there is also a medalist from the European Under-20 steeplechase.
So you've got to turn the clock back quite a number of years to get an individual medalist in this event. Rui Pinto, back in 2011, was the last Portuguese individual medalist in this event. Well, the gun is gone. The first race today, the first race of 7 at the 2019 Spa European Cross Country Championships is on the way. Now, Hannah, you went round the course yesterday. You still have your running shoes on even though you're retired. Observations on the course. We thought it was a bit twisty and it's a sharp bend at the outset.
It is. I think we've just seen go past one of the most severe, sort of a really quite a quick right angle there that they've negotiated. Okay, these guys, and there's another hairpin coming up now. The whole course is twisty and turny, but I think after these first initial corners, it should open up for those athletes running the larger laps. So it's a really interesting course. I think we're going to see a lot of people having to mix up their rhythm, and they're not going to have the kind of fluid running you might have on many other European cross-country courses, or the road or the track.
You talk about fluent running, perhaps it's actually an advantage it being fairly dry underfoot. There's not too much slipping around. Notice that the whole field there managed to negotiate that first 400 or 500 metres or so without any hiccups. There's nobody gone down, that's as far as I can see. And it's the Spaniards at the front, already showing very, very well. 2 or 3 of the Spaniards at the front there. Main man to look out for, Alejandro Quijada, better known as a steeplechaser, ran well in the World Cross Country Championships earlier this year, finished 69th in that very, very tough under-20 race in Aarhus in Denmark. Also up there, Paul Oliach. He had a good run in the well-known Berkeley Cross Country race, which started off the IWF Cross Country Permit Series, finishing second in the under-20 race. Out on the left-hand side of your screen, we've also got one of the Hungarians leading the way at the moment.
I think you can see now that they're still climbing. You know, we're 2 minutes into the race and they are still climbing uphill, and that is very much the profile of this course. The first half of the large lap is uphill, and then we're going to see some really fast running on the second half of that lap as they start to drop back down. But it's a pretty big hit of lactic acid, I'd say, in this first half a lap, just climbing uphill at pace, especially after the aggressive start they all get in these races. It's pretty hard work.
And Mark, of course, I mean, the European Under-20 race, notwithstanding Jakob Ingebrigtsen's domination over the last 3 years, has often thrown up a lot of surprise medalists. And when you're looking at the team medals over the years, it's been spread left and right.
Well, I think that's one of the beauties of this championships, and I do remember one edition of these championships. We had 8 events and 8 different gold medalists, and that sort of thing never happens at World Cross Country Championship level. So European athletics have done so well, I think, in attracting so many countries and not just token competitors, but scoring teams.
Well, indeed, and those teams on the podium as far as the under-20 men are concerned, as we just see Jakob Ingebrigtsen edge to the front with roughly a kilometre of running undergone. And Ingebrigtsen now really starting to make his presence felt. He just bided his time during that first kilometre, and now he's at the front. But looking back, yes, Norway for the first time won the team gold last year, and preceding them were Spain. France defended it in 2016, having won it in 2015. Then you go Italy, France, Russia, and Great Britain, Northern Ireland. So quite a spread of countries in terms of who's been taking the honours in the under-20 men's competition. Well, behind him it's Nur of Sweden, who got a silver medal at the European Under-20 Championships on home soil. Slightly surprising result there, but nevertheless a very welcome medal for the Swedes on home soil at the Under-20 Championships.
Here we go. This is the section I was on about. This is a long, fast downhill, and I think throughout the races, I think this could be a part where you can really see the race break apart. You know, some people are going to come off that hill with really tired legs, and they might miss a break if people are going to make a really big tactical move down this back section of the course. It could be interesting as the race unfolds.
And the Irish showing well at this point. So we've got 3 of the Irish team there in the top 6 or 7, and the 4th Irishman just a little bit further back, but in the top 15. So at the moment, as the race unfolds, it's very evenly matched at this point. Probably looking, well, we're getting into just beyond a quarter of the way into the race, so we're just coming up for really the 2 kilometre point. 3 laps to go. And it looks like McElhenney really starting to work very hard at the front there. McElhenney there. G'day. And we didn't mention the 3rd Irishman in that group, but Keelan Kilrahill.
And this is the challenge for competitors. When you have an outright favourite like Ingebrigtsen in the race, the danger is you can just sit there watching them and react to their race plan, and instead of really playing to your strengths. And it really looks like the Irish guys have kind of decided they want a hard run race, and that doesn't necessarily mean leaving Ingebrigtsen to do what suits him.
There's a couple of the Portuguese runners up there, Britain as well, but no, having a good run at the moment. The silver medalist in the 5,000 metres from Boras. That's Hicks of Great Britain there, also showing very well at this stage. A couple of the Turks up there. The Turks have one very good runner in Ayatollah Aslanhan, silver medalist at 5,000 metres. I think I said that Nur was the silver medalist at 5,000 metres. In fact, he was the steeplechase silver medalist, 3,000 metre steeplechase silver medalist in Boras. Aslanhan finishing in the top 10 12 months ago when we were in very different conditions in Tilburg. I'm sitting here in at least just a sweatshop and a t-shirt. I think I had about 4 or 5 layers on 12 months ago in Tilburg. It was wet and very cold.
And you saw there that Ireland are leading the team standings, but at this stage it's not really that meaningful. They're such a big group.
It's a hard game to play. Do you sit back and try and come through as a team, or do you set your stall up, much like Ireland have on this first lap? But sometimes it can be so congested that the moving through isn't even an option. Sometimes it's better to put yourself up there as a barrier, as a sort of put yourself out there to get past, rather than trying to come through on a technical course like this.
Were team tactics ever discussed back in 2008, and is it a feature of European Cross Country Championship team discussions? You get the feeling that, of course, I mean, there is a team scoring element to the European Cross Country Championship races, Was it ever looked at as far as racing together, racing as a team?
Absolutely, it's definitely a major part of the narrative of this championships, and you know, to get to the top three, that's only a tiny fraction of a whole field, and there's a lot more up for grabs than the rest of those athletes. And you certainly know which the other competitive nations were, and you sort of dig deeper the latter part of the races. You know, the Irish guys are going to know the other strong teams out there and who they're fighting for, and you'll see that in every race. You have the traditional nations that are strong in those races getting targeted by these up-and-coming nations.
Well, man up there alongside Ingebrigtsen is Istvan Palkovic of Hungary, who was fourth in the European Junior 5,000 metres. So we've got many of the top competitors from those track events in Boras back in the summer, back in July, coming here. European Cross Country Championships, performance is a bit more modest. He was 53rd in 2017 and moved up to 36th last year. So looking as though he's having a good run at this stage. He's an athlete who clearly has improved quite substantially over the course of the last 12 months. And we've got Charlie Hicks from Great Britain, Northern Ireland, also up there. Now, he's at Stanford University in the United States, so he'll have come here off the back of a always grueling American collegiate cross-country season. He's going to have to turn it around. And we've seen differing responses. We've had some US collegiate athletes come over after their collegiate seasons and done very well, but it is a grueling circuit and it starts very, very early.
It is, but I think they also have the advantage that he'll be very race sharp. He will have raced incredibly competitive races over in America, and he won't be scared of a field like this. He'll be used to running in really, really competitive fields. I think it's interesting also we've got Matt Willis from Great Britain, who is the second European athlete back at the World Cross behind Ingebrigtsen. And I think on a course like this, which is similar to our house, I think it is relevant how people coped on that course.
Well, we've just seen Willis move up very sharply there. He's come through very quickly over the course of the last couple of 100 metres. He bided his time a little bit. And now, as we're getting into roughly the halfway point in this race, with roughly 3 kilometres undertaken, you can see now that the field is really starting to string out after those early kilometres. And it's Palkovic who's taking the lead here. Well, I think a few people have decided not to give the race to Jakob Ingebrigtsen and just run for the minor placings. There's Palkovic, Hicks and Makaleni and Gidey up there. Makaleni just starting to slip back a little bit at this point. But it's certainly people who've looked at Jakob Ingebrigtsen and wondered, how can I beat him? And what can I bring to this competition? And however it turns out for the young Hungarian, I have to say he's doing a great job at taking this on.
And you've got to have a go, haven't you? You know, he could be tired. He could have. I always thought this as an athlete. You never know what the other person's gone through. He could be jet lagged. He could have food poisoning. You know, he could have got it wrong. And they've got to have a go.
I make it 3 Portuguese athletes in the top 16 at the moment, including Efton Barros, again a very good track runner. He impressed me in Boras, but now it's Ingebrigtsen again, starting to change gear. This is absolutely energy-sapping hill. I think we've probably underestimated what sort of effect this is going to have on the athletes. Now a big gap starting to appear between the leading 6, maybe 7 runners, and then back to one of the... It looks like one of the Italian athletes just back, but it's now Ingebrigtsen really starting to throw down the gauntlet. So we've got Gidey of Ireland, Palkovic of Hungary, and Hicks up there. Willis just starting to look a little bit tired as he climbs that hill. And Noor also. I'm not surprised, though, that these athletes are tired. Great Britain, Northern Ireland leading the way in the team standings at the moment. But still, a couple of kilometres still to go. That looks like one of the Latvians, perhaps, Rizfak.
You can see Ingebrigtsen is definitely piling the pressure on now up that hill, and that's really shown who thinks they can have a go at running with him. And the question is whether they'll get it right. You know, it's gutsy to try and cover moves and go with it, but as you said, you know, we're only just over the halfway point in this race, and they might have gone too early. We might see some of this second group come back to that front group. Well,
historically, we've seen a lot of changes around, certainly amongst the bronze and silver medalists. 2:71, one of the Poles. It's Alexander Vicek. He's decided to call it a day. This is actually I think this is proving to be a lot tougher course than many people would have imagined. I mean, you rightly estimated it. This is going to be a day for the tough guys, people with perhaps mountain running or steeplechase backgrounds.
And what a moment this could be for Ireland if Gidey could hold that position, because this would not be expected. He didn't run in the junior race at the Irish Championships, he ran in the senior race. Full teams in most of the events here. They're obviously building for next year when we'll be in Dublin for the next edition of these championships.
Well, we've seen quite a few of the next year's host organising committee milling around here. I mean, Irish, of course, very experienced cross-country championship organisers. We were in Dublin in 2010. We're not going to be at the same course. In 2010, we were in Santry, right by the airport, and next year we're going to be at what's now the Irish cross-country centre, if you like, where they have the national championships in Abbottstown. Now Ingebrigtsen starting to pour it on with about 2 kilometres of running still to go. But behind him, Gidey having an absolutely outstanding run, but Ingebrigtsen now 2 kilometres to go, and the Norwegian looks just so comfortable, and he's just really changed the pace and starting to pull away from his last challengers.
I'd like to mention also Aslan of Turkey, who's in second place, just going past now in the glasses. He was second at the 5,000 metres at the European Under-20, so it's not a complete surprise that he would be this high up at this stage.
No, Aslan, I think he finished about 8th last year, didn't he? So he's really progressed through the rankings. Gidey trying to hang on to the Turk as we hear the bell. An insight at this moment. I mean, you're in the lead, you hear the bell. What's an elite athlete going to be thinking at this moment? I can't say I'm an elite athlete. I was a fairly good high jumper. Mark's a pretty good 400-metre runner, but you trump us on the credentials.
No, the bell is always a welcome sound. I mean, it's obviously much further to go now than they would on the track, but it's, the lapped courses like this, it's a really nice way to try and gauge your effort and try and, Ingebrigtsen's going to empty the tank now. He's going to put on a show for us. He looks absolutely tremendous, and some of those athletes behind as well. We'll see if those places can change over this last lap.
Well, there's about 30 seconds between Ingebrigtsen and the men in 20th position, so that's quite a gap between the leader. This isn't going to be a competitive race, and he just looks so smooth and comfortable. This is wonderful grounding for what comes ahead during 2020 when he moves up to the senior ranks. We don't know his plans yet. Obviously, the likes of Tokyo, the Olympic Games, we don't know whether he's going to consider running indoors, because there is the World Indoor Championships in Nanjing coming up. There we see, at this stage, with 1 lap to go, the team standings. Great Britain, Northern Ireland consolidating their position. Ireland in second, Norway in third. So good running from some of the perhaps lesser heralded nations in European cross-country running as we spool through the rest of the nations with 3 to score. When did it change from 3 to 4 to score?
I think it was last year.
I think it was 2 years ago, I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll work that one out before we get to the next race.
Well, I was just going to say that last full lap by Ingebrigtsen was 10 seconds, more or less, quicker than the previous lap. So that's why all these gaps are open. And I think we should savour this, because it may be a long time again before we see somebody winning 4 successive under-20 titles. He won his first title at the age of 16.
Well, prior to him coming on the scene, nobody had won more than 2. A couple of people had defended titles, but none had done like Steph Tweller's done in the under-20 ranks and gone and won 3 titles. Anyway, I think we should just sit back and enjoy this, because this is a magnificent bit of distance endurance running. He looks just so calm and confident. He's got about 2 more minutes of running still to go, just under 1 kilometre, and he looks absolutely majestic. I think there's very little doubt that, barring something quite unforeseen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen is on his way to a record 4th Spa European Cross Country Championships under-20 title. Just a slight slip going round the corner there, but he's got such a big advantage. There's not very much that's going to stop him romping his way to yet another gold medal. I mean, given the fact that he's also got his brothers Henrik and Philip winning medals both at world and European level, there's going to be, well, the medal cabinets in the Ingebrigtsen household must be creaking now. So he's just about a minute of running left, just starting to blow very slightly. There we see Gidey. Aslihan just tripping very slightly, but he's got enough space between him and the fourth place. It's looking as though now, well, Aslihan's starting to look a little bit tired. He's looking to look now as though the colour of the medals has been decided. Certainly Ingebrigtsen on his way to yet another gold medal. Just looking now around the course, he's coming around the bend. He's got about another 500 metres of running, and very soon he's going to turn into the home straight. Behind him, an outstanding run from Efren Gidey, 19-year-old Irish junior 5,000 metre runner. And here he is, just turning into the home straight now. We can see him coming down. He's had to... What was going on there? He just had to leap the barrier at the side. Anyway.
It is tighter over there than it looks, and I think that's going to be the speed he was coming down. That is very relevant. Right,
so he's celebrating, he's cheering, and he's going to be the very first gold medalist at the Spa European Cross Country Championships. Jakob Ingebrigtsen takes gold in the under-20 men's race. Gold once again to Norway, his fourth successive title.
Well, we can see the Turkish athlete and the Irish athlete really having a battle down. This hill is a sharp downhill, and they're really giving it everything. And I think the Turkish athlete has negotiated that really, really well to come look like he's going to come in for the silver medal.
Well, how wrong can I be? With 500-600 metres to go, I thought Gidey was set for the silver. Aslihan, I don't know where he found that turn of speed over the final 400 metres, but to come through so strongly like that. And behind them, Efren Gidey takes bronze for Ireland, but a terrific battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. Well, I think it's Barros who's come through. Hicks, I think, has... Yes, Hicks indeed confirmed, and coming through very well, Jarele Chakole of Israel.
I think it's easy to underestimate the tactics of running downhill, and I think we would have seen a lot of changes in that last 500 metres.
Well, Matthew Willis coming through for 9th for Great Britain, and Zakaria Mohammed, younger brother of Mohammed, who took bronze 3 years ago, also in 11th place. So I think, subject to confirmation, it looks like the British have regained the team title that they last won in this category in 2011. As we scroll through, there we see it, top 30. Cajeda of Spain, who showed in the early part of the race, coming through in 30th position. As we look at the rest of the 100 or so finishers, we've had a few men drop out. We saw those in the early stage of the races. Men who clearly underestimated how tough this course is. But these men, I think they'll go home with interesting memories of this particular race. I think they came here looking at it as a Parkland course, thinking this will be fairly straightforward. It'll be a southern European style cross-country race. But those hills, as we've been saying, I think are really going to take their toll. You don't like hills, do you, Hannah?
I don't like hills, Phil. No, I think you're exactly right. If I'd looked at a kind of annual schedule and gone, European Championships, Portugal, you think you know what you're letting yourself in for. But I think this is a much more technical course and a lot harder than you could have anticipated.
Well, we'll just take a 30-second breather here as we look at a recap of Jakob Ingebrigtsen working his way towards yet another gold medal.
Ingebrigtsen is the champion from last year, and he's also the champion here. In 2019, he's completely unbeatable in the track, and he's also unbeatable here in the cross country mark.
Este é o rei do corta-mato para sub-20 masculinos, Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Ele que aqui em Lisboa validou a sua condição de campeão da Europa, 4 vezes campeão da Europa, desde 2016 até aqui em Lisboa. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, o norueguês, que nos últimos campeonatos da Europa de pista garantiu também a sua condição de campeão da Europa para os 500, para os 5.000. Ele está imbatível. Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
Running as well there, and total energy is on Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He really is one of the superstars.
And also the team standing.
Outstanding
Great Britain and Northern Ireland are the new European Under-20 champions. Norway, Jacob Ingebrigtsen, second place, first last year.
Just before we get to that, there's the population of the team standings. Northern Ireland 25 points, the team and Ireland and Portugal, well, equal points for third and fourth place, but Ireland get the nod and climb the podium as a result of having the third, well, just to explain it, the leading scorer in third place.